Hi everybody, my name is Juan. I am just one reader. Welcome back to my channel. The year is now officially coming to a close, and so this is my favorite moment of the entire year because this is the moment in which I get to share my favorite books of the year with you. So 2018 was an incredibly successful, amazing reading year for me. I read some amazing books, and so coming up with this list was very, very difficult indeed. However, I did narrow it down to 15 books. So this is going to be my top 15 books that I read in 2018. However, I do have some honorable mentions. Let's get started with the honorable mentions. So, starting with my honorable mentions, I actually have 10 honorable mentions. So that's a lot. That's a clear reflection of how good my 2018 reading year was. Now, my honorable mentions are books that I gave somewhere between 4 to 4.5 stars, maybe even higher. These are books that I thoroughly enjoyed. I might even love some of them. And I would of course recommend each and every one of them to you. However, for some reason or another, I could not put them on the same category as the other 15. So my 10 honorable mentions for 2018 are The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. What a wonderful, delightful, charming novel. Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. What a roller coaster of a novel this was. Probably the most entertaining novel that I read in 2018, actually. The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. Ironically, I now want to build an altar for Richard Dawkins. Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. What a bizarre and unique novel this was. It was brilliant. The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Shape of Her Own Making by Catherine M. Valente. What a charming and just lovely tale. It by Stephen King. I found the writing in this book to be very clumsy at times, but I can easily forgive that. This book is epic, dark, incredibly Freudian, and it's just one of those pieces of fiction that will stay with me, and I feel like the characters are now a part of my brain. On Sondheim, An Opinionated Guide by Ethan Morton, one of my favorite pieces of nonfiction about one of my favorite artistic geniuses, Stephen Sondheim. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This was intimidating and sometimes a little bit difficult to read, but it was so worth it in the end. Civil Warland in Bad Decline, an amazing short story collection by George Saunders, the master of short stories. The Dragonfly Pool by Eva Ibbotson, one of the most delightful, comforting, and charming YA middle grade novels that I have read in recent years. Lovely, lovely book. And finally, my last honorable mention for 2018 goes to Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Now I know why people love this book so much. So I know what you guys must be thinking right now. How crazy or just stupid must this guy be in order to put books, such classic, renowned books such as Jane Eyre or 100 Years of Freaking Solitude on the honorable mentions list? That's like blasphemous on BookTube or on literary terms. However, the 15 books that I selected for my actual top 15 books of the year were so special for me. They resonated with me for reasons that I probably cannot properly articulate myself. These are books that I put a lot of myself into. These are books that gave a lot to me, but I also put myself into them, if that makes any sense. These are books that I became obsessed with. These are books that I did a lot of research about. I watched conferences and videos talking about the books, interviews with the authors. For some of these books, I actually wrote papers of my own, whether it be on literary terms or using psychoanalytical theory. So these are books that became an integral part of me and of my 2018. So without any further ado, these are my top 15 books of 2018. Coming in at number 15 is The Butcher's Hook by Janet Ellis. This is a historical fiction novel that really brings out the perverse side of the reader. This is a darkly, deliciously delightful, twisted tale, and I think it would be attractive to a lot of different readers. Coming in at number 14, the Lord of the Rings trilogy by J.R.R. Tolkien. I just loved the grandeur, the epic scope of these books, of this trilogy. I love how biblical and historical and real they felt. It felt more like reading history. It never felt like I was reading something fictitious or made up. I just loved the texture and the effort and the love that the author put into this creation. Coming in at number 13, The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. This was the winner of the 2011 Man Booker Prize. It is a perfect little novel, in my opinion. I am all about the writing style, and Julian Barnes's writing style in here just blew me out of the water. It is also a really interesting and clever examination of history and memory and the haziness of the human experience. Coming in at number 12 is the Pulitzer Prize winning Less by Andrew Sean Greer. This really is one of those novels that you can recommend to everybody. It's a novel that has a little bit of everything in it. So on the one side, it is a great character study. On the other side, it is an amazing Monopoly kind of story, you know, an adventure story, a world tour kind of novel. You go from place to place and you get to see a lot of different places in the world. It's also a great tragic comedy. It's sweet, sour, everything in between, and I can see why this won the Pulitzer. It is a great novel. Coming in at number 11 is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I really enjoyed thinking about this book in terms of its writing style, which is just beautiful and gorgeous in its own unique way. Also in terms of its themes, and of course in terms of its protagonist, the character of Holden Caulfield, who is one of my favorite characters that I read in 2018. I also made a review that I am very proud of for The Catcher in the Rye. It was a review that addressed the adolescent conflict in terms of, you know, using some psychoanalytical theory to explain some adolescent conflicts as portrayed in The Catcher in the Rye. Coming in at number 10 is Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer. This novel really impressed me. The way that it handles the themes and the characters, and particularly how it uses the structure, the format of this weird, the weird narrative choices that the author employs in here, it was all really impressive, and it was also incredibly funny and sad, which is something that I really appreciate when a book can do that, when a book can balance, you know, the heavy, weighty themes, but also the contrast with the sour comedy of it. It's a great novel, and I think people should read it. Coming in at number 9 is Blandings Castle by P.G. Wodehouse, which you can find in this anthology. So Blandings Castle by P.G. Wodehouse has to be the best time that I had reading in 2018. It is the most joyful experience that I had in 2018, and I had never laughed out loud so much with a book. Coming in at number 8 is The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. When I picked this book up, I was very anxious because this is a book by Donna Tartt that people don't usually like. However, it made it into my number 8 spot of the year. It was just a great, great, great novel. I can see why some people have felt frustrated or cheated by it, because it is a novel that looks like a mystery, but it's never really about the mystery. It's very ambiguous and very literary, and thematically, I just loved it. It also features my favorite character that I read in 2018, the protagonist Harriet. So yeah, The Little Friend by Donna Tartt is just outstanding. I absolutely recommend it. I think it's just one of my favorite novels of the year. Coming in at number 7 is Stoner by John Williams. What a perfect, quiet little novel this was. I just loved it. It was a novel about a man, not a heroic man, not a remarkable man in any way. He's just a man. He's your average guy, and the reading experience is it was so perfect. The writing style is absolutely perfect and sophisticated and elegant and very sort of monochromatic or minimalistic. It's such an understated kind of writing style which really reflects the low-key understated character and the themes and the way that this book is discussing love and work and the things that we value in life. Oh, it was just a perfect, rounded little book. Perfect novel. Perfect novel. Coming in at number 6 is Sigmund Freud, Vida y Milagros. Sigmund Freud, Life and Miracles. This was written by Argentinian author, comedian, and former psychoanalyst Rudi. It is a kind of biography of Sigmund Freud, but it's also a discussion of psychoanalysis, of the psychoanalytical movement, of psychoanalytical practice today. It is hilarious. It is really, really clever. It literally ticked all the right boxes for me. It's a book that I enjoyed. I felt like the author had written this book for me, having me in mind. It was just a perfect fit of, everything that I like. I found it in this book. Coming in at number 5 is Pastoralia or Pastoralia by George Saunders. This is a collection of short stories and a novella, and this is a great example of why George Saunders has become one of my favorite writers. It's a great example of the things that George Saunders excels at. It is a great balancing act in terms of the tragic, heavy topics that he addresses and the light, weird, experimental, slightly sci-fi mechanisms or tools that he uses to address those human topics. I never had enjoyed a short story as much as I did the first title story of this collection, Pastoralia. It's my favorite short story of the year, and this collection is just incredible. Coming in at number 4 is another short story collection, my favorite collection of the year, The Birds and Other Stories by Daphne du Maurier. So when you say Daphne du Maurier, people always think Rebecca, 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 Rebecca. And I really enjoyed Rebecca. I might have even loved it. However, this is just I think it might be my favorite Daphne du Maurier that I've read. The stories are so different from one another. It's a really diverse collection. It's so atmospherical. It's so dreadful and charged with emotion. Some stories are very magical, fantastical feeling. Some stories are not, but they are weird and unnerving. I also made a separate book review for this, which I am very proud of because there's a lot of psychoanalytical things that you can find in these stories. So yeah, Daphne du Maurier, The Birds. What an amazing collection. Coming in at number 3 is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is now my favorite classic so far. This book is freaking perfect. It is flawless. The writing style is, I think, the best writing style that I have ever read. It is so elegant and sophisticated. It's incredible how someone from the human species was able to write this. The characters, even though it only has a few characters, they are so awful and problematic and you sort of love to hate them. The themes, the plot, the atmosphere, the setting, there really isn't anything wrong with this book. I think it's just splendid. That's the best adjective to describe this book. Coming in at number 2 is The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster, and yes, I am wearing a matching t-shirt of The Phantom Tollbooth. Yes, this is everything. So, The Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster has immediately become one of my favorite books of life. It is spectacular. It is middle grade fiction, and it's actually the only middle grade book that I have given 5 stars to in recent years. It was flawless, it was impeccable, it was charming and sweet, and so quirky and whimsical, filled with puns and riddles and the experiments that he does with the English language. This is a perfect book. The only reason why I am putting this as my number 2 book of the year instead of my number 1 is because I feel like that book, the number 1 book of the year, I might have enjoyed maybe a little bit more than this one, and also because as amazing as Reading the Phantom Tollbooth was, I feel like I would have loved it even more if I had read it as a child. And now we are down to the nitty-gritty. What is the big winner? What was my number 1 book of 2018? I'll give you a couple of clues, see if you can get it. The writing style that this author, who by the way is one of my favorite authors, uses in this novel is more like music than writing. It's incredible how this writing style just sort of sings in a melody. It is a tragedy. It revolves around a campus. I think I just gave it away. It's a novel about really awful, or if not awful, really flawed, imperfect, broken people. And these are people that you hate, but you also love and you admire them, and you, by way of narcissistic identification, want to become like them in some ways. I think I just gave it away. I think it's very clear. This is my favorite novel of 2018. I had never had a reading experience such as this one. I don't even know what it was about this book and about this reading experience that resonated with me. I don't know what this book did to me, and that is, of course, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Again, I don't really know if I can properly articulate what it is that this book did to me, but I had never had an experience like this. It was even on a physical level, this book did something to me physically in terms of sensations and yeah, physical terms. So The Secret History by Donna Tartt is, of course, one of the most popular, highly praised, hyped books out there, not just on BookTube, just in general. I was expecting to like it or love it, but I never thought it would just destroy me as it did. Again, I don't know what it was about this book, but it is by far my favorite book of the year. So guys, those were my favorite books that I read in 2018. Please leave your comments down below. Tell me, what did you think of my list? What were your favorite books of 2018? And of course, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking up with me for another year. I very much look forward to another year on BookTube here with you guys. Thanks for watching.